Dun, dun, dun. We roll on to the final. 2 episodes in a row. Nicholas, the wheel that will soon leave the building. Katy Daley-Mclean. More rugby, less blue tits.
Gloucester Hartbury, they carried 110 times. Saracens carried 170.
I've never seen them be that clinical.
Who and by how many? Go.
I'm gonna go.
Oh, but I wonder if we'll get a higher score. So we'll get a...
Wow. The Six Nations is on the horizon. The big one. Roll up, Bonnie, Scotland.
Roll up, Bonnie, Scotland.
Bonnie, Scotland.
The Gary Street, Graham Smith era, it was a bit of an arm round the shoulder.
Graham was more of a punch to the face.
Who of the 4 are most likely to beat France? And go. Welcome back to The Good, The Scaz and The Rugby, brought to you in partnership with Vodafone. It's the week of the PWR Final. The Six Nations is on the horizon. The real one, the big one. And there's a lot to discuss. Our Mo is prepping for the final. Our Scaz is in camp with the Red Roses, with England. And the man you hear before even me on the audio version of this podcast has graced our studio with his presence 2 episodes in a row. Nicholas.
I know, what is going on?
My goodness.
There is a serious absenteeism for me to be getting the invite twice. But I was thinking we might need to refresh the intro, mightn't we? There's too many references now that we could probably
Do you want to drop it?
put in. Yeah, maybe for next season we'll have something new.
Oh,
I like it.
Oh, okay.
It's possibly one of my favourite bits of the show.
Oh, well, that's
I mean,
nice.
that's a
Sorry.
great compliment. I think
Wow.
I'll see myself
Well, it's been
out
lovely
now.
to be here. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next week.
Okay, I'm going home now. The steering wheel, the 4th wheel, the 5th wheel, the wheel that will soon leave the building.
The wheel that just keeps coming back.
Boomerang wheel.
Take a hint down that hill.
Katy Daley-Mclean. I can't believe you're slumming it with us.
Oh, no, that's mean.
I mean, don't you have some men to go sit around with somewhere?
Oh,
She said
I'm so
friendly,
pleased.
some friendly chat.
Some straight men
I'm
to go
so
sit around
pleased.
with somewhere.
Thanks.
Sorry.
I'm so pleased to be here for this.
Well, she's going to fight me, isn't she?
Yeah, just
and
you
win.
being just
Actually, it's
excited
rugby.
for going and
It's
playing
like
with other
coming
people
home.
in the playground.
It's like coming home and fitting in a cosy chairs, and bringing your washer and getting an orange juice.
Did you double bill us today?
I did. At least I'm honest. I owned it.
It's the same jumper, everything.
No, I bought you a different jumper.
Oh, wow.
This is my 3rd jumper, actually.
Sloppy thirds.
What did you do before them?
What with my other jumpers in
Why
my
did
bag?
you need 3 jumpers?
Because I've done 2 records and then you guys. Best to last.
Gosh, who else are you double timing us with? I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I'm getting hot. Can we stop now?
Is your house paid off yet?
If only.
The way this is going, I
The
love
kids
that.
are eating well, though.
She's got twins, like we need to save for school.
Taste the difference, alphabetti spaghetti.
You are a bad person as well.
Okay, well, the compliments are rolling. Favorite guest so far? Favorite thing of your new show, Stick to the Rugby?
Stop eyeballing me as well when you say that. Jodie Ownsley.
Really?
Obviously, great having another female on. We are
Another woman.
another woman. It is quite male heavy, but no, the boys are great. Jodie was brilliant, just a different insight, and she's fascinating. And we go back as well, so that was nice.
Have you been steering wheeling them?
No,
No?
not yet.
Are you polite?
Yeah, polite, kind, quiet.
Quiet?
Yeah,
Katy Daley-Mclean?
yeah. I've changed.
I've never.
Changed.
How's it actually going? Like if we asked your boss on that side, your Shira, the Shira of Stick to Rugby, what would they
Sam,
say?
he keeps inviting me back, and I haven't been deleted from the WhatsApp group, so I'm assuming these are positives.
There we go.
That's basically how my career's worked for 10, 15 years.
What if you're still in the WhatsApp group? Keep going.
You just if you get invited back.
Okay.
Never actually get given a job. Just get invited back to do whatever you did last time.
I did get given a job once, and I got a nice little earpiece so I could talk to Sam, producer Sam, and he said hello, and I was like, hello, fine. And then the show went on, and I thought he was really quiet, didn't hear anything else from him. And he was like, did you hear me? And I was like, no. An hour and a half later, battery died. Didn't hear a single word. Never got an earpiece again.
Oh.
Because they were like, she doesn't even
She's
listen.
yeah.
She won't flag that it's not working, so why waste the tech on
Literally,
her?
let's just not waste it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we don't have earpieces on this show, but Katy also doesn't have one here. Surprise.
She also doesn't listen, but hey.
Nicholas Aidan Heath, the power pod.
Full naming. Good.
How are we feeling about the season now? It's you're rolling up. I mean, you've almost put away all of the furniture. It's this close.
Yeah. Last episode has come out this week, so yes, it's been a ride, and I appreciate for the players, for the coaches. Nobody wanted this season to be as concise as it's been. No, Katy shakes her head, but it's been great from a sort of fan pundit thing to just go a week after week after week, relentless. The story is the story. Now this is changing, and all of those little nuances and ups and downs have been so hyper focused. I think it's been really good fun. So it's been great to do. Been amazing to have the audience of people that are into a bit more actual match analysis and what's gone on and the plays and stuff. So I felt there was a place for it, and I'm pleased that a few people out there think so too.
More rugby, less blue tits.
There's room for all of us.
That's how I would describe it. How was the Women's Six Nations launch last week? 2 years ago, we sent Nick Heath to the Women's Six Nations launch, and he basically did a live commentary take on it, and he emerged from the ball pit.
That's right.
Which was a bit of a weird approach to hosting a Women's Six Nations launch. And I feel like the Women's Six Nations launch as a concept has explored many interesting nooks and crannies over the year.
That's very well put.
Last year we were in this venue that was an immersive, if you've never been to Frameless in London, it's like being inside the Matrix. That's the best way I can describe it. But then the press conference was also in the gift shop, which was challenging for all of the press and media at this event.
Correct.
So every year there are a few interesting ideas and concepts explored. Ball pit this year, because I missed it.
No ball pit.
Okay. Gift shop?
We were at no gift shop. We were at Tobacco Dock, and look, the sort of, the demographic of people that are following the Women's Six Nations is different, and there are younger people coming through wanting to be creators and influencers in that space. And so I get the fact that as an organisation, they've gone, okay, what can we do to actually make the most of this? It's an area of the game that we see as more growing, more dynamic, a younger audience, a more family audience. So I get that, but you do have a lot of the traditional media that need to fulfill their tasks, speak to the coach, speak to the captain of each nation, and be able to begin to formulate their stories. And over the last couple of years, it's been like, hey, creators and content, we can just do loads of cool stuff over here, and we can dance and do some fun stuff. And you've just got some wizened writers going, why are we in the corner of a gift shop trying to do an interview with people? It was just, and this year nailed it. They absolutely got it right. They had spaces for the creators to do all their thing. They had more creative bits in front of a mural and people dancing about and doing stuff there. And then they had the rooms for the rotation and the chance to sit down with the coaches and the captains. So everybody got what they wanted. And it sort of felt like the lessons had been learned of the fun stuff. Let's do stuff differently. But you don't have to do it that differently for the people that are also your core writers and people that will generate, the column inches that you largely want for perhaps the more traditional audience as well, that you do want to bring across.
And there was parity in that not only did we see the men's players do the catwalk thing with their coaches, we also had the women's players do the catwalk thing with their coaches.
And it was just as awkward and pointless for both.
It is so awkward.
Well, the men's one looked like, someone said, who was it, commented that it looked like the boys were being led to the headmaster's office, which was absolutely it. And then someone said, was it me, or did it look like all of the women's players looked like they were their dads giving them away at a wedding? Neither option is great.
No, it's
really,
not.
Is it? So why make them do that long walk? I don't know. Have them sat on a chair under a thing and woof, there they are. It's Hannah Jones and Jordan.
Zoe Orkoff did really well with the trophy, because I've done them before, and you're like, how do you carry it by your side? Do you carry it in front? Yeah, like a baby. So fair play to her. I thought she nailed the trophy walk.
She was
can be awkward.
Claire Thomas was excellent at hosting, and my favourite bit was as Sean Lynn got to the stage wearing his slacks, she just went, "Oh, you do own trousers," which I thought was lovely. Man eternally in shorts.
That was I loved the picture of him seeing him fully dressed up for the occasion, his legs put away for a change, because it was Baltic, where we filmed last time after the semi-final, and he was still sitting there in shorts. I was wearing one of the warmest jackets I own, and it looks ridiculous because he's just sitting there with his knees out. So what did you learn, Nick Heath, that Katy Daley-Mclean and I would not have seen from the media coverage or have heard from our sources yet. What's the bits around the side that you picked up?
Bits around the side. Well, I'm spending a lot of my Women's Six Nations in Italy and France this year. Thank you. Yes, I've won a competition apparently.
Good food though.
And yeah, that'll be fun. And so there was an opportunity, a sort of breakout bit before they went into different rooms, where I sidled up to Gaël Mignot and David Ortiz, the coaches for France, and they were also with Manae Feleau, getting her name right now because she checked it with me and it's good. Okay. Feleau, not Feleau. So there we are. Feleau. And so I had a bit of a chat with them, and Manae, has Kiwi heritage, and so she was able to speak in English to me about what was going on with the squad. And then they came up and I was trying to look through the squad and I didn't have last year's squad with me, so I was trying to do it from memory, and I was like, so who have we not got this time and who is injured? And I realised there's no Gaël Hermet, former captain, number 8 or back row. No Romain Ménager in the squad at that point. So I was asking about them. Romain Ménager is out with a bit of a head knock. It's been a long one. They're hoping that she's on her way back now, but it might be a few weeks. But my favourite moment was with Gaël Mignot, and I sort of said, Gaël Hermet, I said, is this selection? And they all just started to look in other directions. And then I was sort of considering trying to find the French, but I had Manae there and I was just like, is it the end of the road for Gaël Hermet? And they all just sort of looked again in a number of directions. Then eventually Gaël Mignot just made eye contact with me and went,
the most French nod ever.
Yeah, I was like, right, okay, so that's the end of the road. I figured that there is only room for one frowning French Gaël in that coaching setup, and it's going to be the head coach, not the former captain. So, yeah, there we go. So that was interesting. I got to chat to Fabio, the new Italian head coach, who came in, appointed in December, started in January, and has been getting to know the setup. He hasn't coached women's rugby before, hasn't coached the women's team before, but it was quite interesting. He was sort of saying a few of those things that, well, you assume most head coaches would do, although I think we have heard of some setups where this sort of thing doesn't happen. But he went in and said, okay, what do you want to go after? What are your goals? What do you want the culture to be? What's important to you as players? And I want you to, share with me the things that you think will make this team great. And he said that the things that they came up with and came back to him with, he said he got goosebumps, and he said he felt quite emotional. He said he's never felt like that in a coaching setup in his life before. So that's cool. And that he's embracing that and getting into that. It's an interesting time to be having a new head coach. 8 weeks before, 3 months before the start of the Women's Six Nations, and B, in Rugby World Cup year. But hey, Italians.
Got some good players though, like having had Sophia Stefan and Bea Ragoni with us at Sale and Sarah Tanese previously.
Yeah.
Like they've got some real talent. So it'd be interesting whether somebody can really harness their mavericks and then build around them as well.
Yeah, my question to him was, in my history of watching the Italy women's team, which arguably, I don't know his background, I might have legitimately been watching that Italy women's team longer than he has. I was like, they started to get to a really good point, and then it just seems to have flatlined, and they just don't seem to be punching any higher than where they got to. They had that, third place finish a few years ago, and then it's not been there. And so I said, it'll be really interesting to see how you can push through. And he was like, he goes, that's what we're going after as a group. So, we will see.
I love when people come into positions and they listen first. I think it's universally quite a good value to take into any new role.
Yeah.
Okay, Italy and France done. Then Sean Lynn, Wales. So now we heard about his approach at the Cherry and White in Glass. And he spoke about the family theme also being something that's really important to him in the Welsh setup. Is this exactly what Wales needs, Katy Daley-Mclean?
I think so, yes. I think you look at what he's done at Gloucester, and more importantly, you look at how the girls speak about him, and everything they talk about is how much he's created a family, the culture, that they feel valued. And I think you look at Wales, we've never questioned whether they have the ability as players to compete in the Six Nations. Probably what we've questioned is whether they've got that connection as a group to really get the best out of each other. And I think this is probably exactly what they need, a bit of an arm around, a bit of somebody who is very, very passionate about Wales and coming home, as he's called it. I think he's going to be perfect for them. And I think it's exactly the right time. Like the natural lift you'll get from somebody who demonstrates they care rather than just say they care, I think could be huge for this Welsh side.
You know those programmes where they show slightly unhappy or abandoned dogs and they get people to come in to homes?
Did you just compare?
And they wait, wait,
He did.
wait, and the perfect owner turns up. And you're so delighted because finally they're going to give that dog the home and the cuddle and the happiness, and the dog is sprinting everywhere and having the best possible time. And that is what I feel at times. You know, even back when Siwan Lillicrap was captain of the side a few years ago, Siwan was giving absolutely everything she could as the sort of leader to follow into battle. But there were still cliques and negativity and toxicity within that squad that you know, Roland Phillips couldn't quite get rid of, Johan Cunningham couldn't get rid of. There was succession after succession of coaches that just thought, well, let's just look over here and focus on the strategy in the game. And it never worked. And so I had a minute to sit with Sean at the launch, and I just said, by the way, I was like, I'm so excited for what's going to happen here. And I said, but is it not a no-brainer that coming into the squad and using words like family and wanting to put an arm around these players to a certain degree, because you know, various sort of graduations of how I think professional women's rugby has gone over the last little while is that the Gary Street, Graham Smith era, particularly with the Red Roses, was part Uncle Graham and Uncle Gary. It was a bit of an arm around the shoulder. Let's have a giggle together.
Gary was. Graham was more of a punch to the face.
Maybe true. But then Simon Middleton became the pro face, and then they had to just hit their markers, and then it's just been a sort of very
Smithy, sorry,
very more pro business like setup since. I'm cracking on regardless. Hi Smithy, but I don't think that ever quite reached the Welsh yet. I think they needed to go through their arm round the shoulder period, and this is going to be it. This is actually, and I said to Sean, I was like, is it not a no-brainer that you would have to turn round to these girls and say, this is a safe environment, you're all important and special, we're going to get through this and we're going to get through it together. And, you know, the girls have been let down by the union as well. I think a piece by Fee Thomas is coming out this week where at the launch, I think at the end of quite a long day, Hannah Jones, who isn't known for saying an awful lot, has said, you know, what happened was disgraceful, using the right words to talk about what they've all come through and how the contract stuff was handled by the union. And for them to be getting that off their chest, for Linnie to be in there and the man that understands it and wants to bring them together, it's hugely excited. They might now finally play it to the sum of their parts. And if he can get them doing that, how soon? That'll be the challenge. But
yeah,
let's say he is able to do that in a magical world within the next few weeks to get that campaign started. They could scare anybody on their day.
Yeah, the alchemy of cohesion is something that could really click into gear quickly, or it could take a few rounds to bed in. It's almost just waiting to see now. Hannah Jones did say that the aim for the Six Nations is to see a smile on the girls' faces. Didn't talk about a position on the log. We tend to ask teams, where do you want to be? Like, what's the position you're aiming for? They're aiming to not want to get divorced from the sport, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine.
Yeah.
And I mean, Sean Lynn even told us the vibe from the Bristol girls, who Gloucester Hartbury had literally just knocked out in the semi-final in the Welsh camp last week, was great, and they were lovely.
Yeah. They had 4 18-year-olds in the camp, their first camp till last week. And Sean Lynn's face is a picture when he's excited. He was like, oh, and he said they were absolutely tearing it up, and some of the senior players were metaphorically and literally looking over their shoulders going, holy hell, we have got to step up now. This is going to be real. And Sean Lynn said, you know, we need an out-and-out 8 in that squad. We need someone that's going to do what Al Matthews does off the back of my Gloucester Hartbury scrum. He goes, these are the things that I'm going to put in place. He goes, it's probably going to ruffle a few feathers, some of the decisions I've got to make the next few weeks. That's exciting too. You know, give some people a little shake, move things on. It's good.
Spicy.
Yeah. It really is.
It's not just cuddles. I love that.
Spicy with a bit of cuddles.
Yeah, that's the combo, I think.
Yeah. A slice of punch in the face and then an arm around the shoulder.
Work for Gary and Graham.
I mean, Ireland, On to the girls in green, beat New Zealand in the autumns after coming third last year in the Women's Six Nations. They were in WXV3, and I am the first person to acknowledge the fact that when they qualified for WXV1, I said to producer Shira, I don't know if this is a good idea. I don't know if fast-forwarding straight from 3 to 1 is going to give them the momentum they need. And
I reckon if you took a straw poll of their squad, there'd probably a few of them going,
Oh, God, what have we done?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
This isn't what we were
Take it
looking
back.
for.
yeah. But sink or swim,
They
Swim.
went and they swam.
Yeah.
Scott Beeman said third this year is harder than third last year because the games we were competitive in this year are all away from home games. So they have France and England at home, and to get a World Cup semi-final spot later in the year, we need to beat a Tier 1 team. Who do you consider Tier 1 in the women's game? Is that WXV1? Or is that like top 5? Is that top 10? What do we consider Tier 1 in the women's game? Top 8? Top 6?
yeah,
Wow.
I'd say top 4 or 5.
Oh, I think you don't think you can go further than that, can you? Canada, France, New Zealand, England.
New Zealand, Canada, France, and then
That's when
already
it becomes
starting
interesting, doesn't it?
So it's the 4.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say so. And the French have got to keep fighting to keep themselves up there because I think they're the ones most at risk at the minute. My favourite comment from a certain ex-Red Rose when I was commentating on the New Zealand game at Twickenham last September was we were just chewing the fat about the fact that the Red Roses had played France the week before, and I said it's just disappointing that the French just don't seem to quite be there, and sometimes it is a case of which France is going to turn up. And this person turned around to me and said, "No, we do know which France is going to turn up, the shit one." And
Oh, wow.
but that's what it's been like, actually, in reality. France turn up and you go, oh, they've got the we've beaten them by 20 points again. That was easy. And they've just not really been there. They've not really challenged and scared the rest for a while.
Shara did ask Scott Beeman if they're targeting France. So here we go. And on that topic of Tier 1, as we say in PWR, the mini league, the battle for 4, that's actually the battle here. That's what we're really looking at.
Yeah.
Who is that team? Is it going to be Ireland? Is it going to be Scotland? Brian Eason has said we're not benchmarking ourselves against France and England. We benchmark against 4 to 8 in the world rankings. Asked if they're aiming for third, he said, no, we're just looking to try and stay in the upper echelons of 4 to 8. So they want to be 4 or 5. Is that the toughest battle for them? Staying in that?
Yeah, I think so. I think the positive thing for Scotland from what I can see is that while they haven't got the influx of a new coach energy, they've got players playing in ever-improving PWR sides and combinations that are working for them. So I think that's exciting, having, Rachel Malcolm playing in that Loughborough Lightning side that went on to play that second half of the season so positively. And, I just think there's excitement around the ever-improving nature of those players. I remember, talking to Scaz about speaking to Chrissy Scurfield in the Loughborough team and talking about where do you position yourself in the backfield and going, I'm upskilling the opposition here. And actually the increased competitiveness of the PWR, I think, will see certain nations within this Women's Six Nations really kick on.
Do you not think it's a bit? Sorry. Do you not think it's a bit safe from Brian, like the upper echelons? Like, I just think it's a bit nothingy, really. Like, surely he's got to be sitting there thinking we should be able to beat now Italy, Ireland, and Wales. Like,
And what about France?
and then
they're the target then.
And then France are the game that you're going after. Like, France in Scotland, as we've seen, are a very different beast. How Scotland view France and then how France turn up to France in France. I just think for me that's very a Brian Eason comment, not really putting any pressure on them because he doesn't want to put pressure on Scotland. But realistically, we're all sitting here going, they've got to perform. Lots of players that are in PWR that are playing well. They've had lots of continuity. They've had no coaching changes. It's very settled. Like, if you're not aiming now for a third place, then when are you?
Yeah,
when producer Shira asked about it, Helen Nelson did actually then commit to saying we're basically aiming for third because we're going 3 home wins that would put us third.
Yeah.
So just say that, lead with that. Come on, give us the commitment.
I think so. I think put it out, put your stall out there that we think now we're in a place where we've done enough work because they've worked so hard, haven't they, to give themselves a squad that is capable. Because realistically, at one point Scotland were a 15 or a 12, and now I think they've realistically we're getting towards a 2023.
Celtic Challenge helping, all
Massively.
that kind of stuff. But they've had a fair few injuries as well,
fair.
so that could play an unfortunate part. We'll have to see.
Yeah. It emerged during the launch that Emma Wassell isn't quite as ready to come back during the Six Nations as she was.
Yeah, and Lana Skeldon's been out as well. Emma Orr out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big names that actually in key positions are not quite there. So,
but if you look at their game, so they've got a more complete, fully rounded out, in terms of depth, squad now. In terms of their game, what is it that they need to bring? Is it just seeing the games out? Is it playing it right until the end? Is it really just in those final moments psychologically staying in there?
For me, actually, it's something a little simpler on field. It's execution. I think at key times, Scotland are capable of throwing that pass to the player in space a metre behind the player that needs the ball.
Or over the head.
Or over there. But that's it. I think their execution in those high pressure moments is what will really make the difference. And you look at the top 2 or 3 or 4, they will hit it, they will take that opportunity, they will score. So for me, it's about it's good catch pass, it's good decision making. And I think whatever will help improve that, whether that's the more minutes through the PWR that some of them have had, whether that's the experience gained by more of the youngsters coming through the Celtic Challenge, and whether it's also, WXV wasn't designed to benefit the teams that are really in that top 4, 5, 6 in the world. They obviously couldn't leave them out as they try and develop more of them from WXV 3 and 2. But actually, it is still more minutes on the field for those international players ahead of the more traditionally big-time showtime tournaments like the Guinness Women's Six Nations.
Okay, now, we've talked about Italy, new coach. We've talked about Ireland. They've beaten the Black Ferns. We've talked about Wales, new Linnie on the block, and Scotland.
He's still Linnie from the block.
He's still. And Scotland has everything still intact from last year, except for Emma Wassell, Skeldon, and 1 or 2 other names. Is whom of the 4 are most likely to beat France? And go.
Of those 4? Whoa.
Oh, that's a great question.
Italy, Ireland, Wales, Scotland.
The Italians are always capable of a really left field performance that beats the French. That's the weird thing.
Again, I think a lot of this depends on where France are. Like I say, I think if France are going to Scotland, very
They're
different.
not,
okay, so that's probably not going to happen then.
Yeah.
What about, are they going to Italy?
Yes.
So I think Italy become more likely because France just don't seem to travel as well.
It's
Never
literally
have.
just across the border. You're not even crossing the ocean.
I think it's just on the plane or on the bus. Panic.
Yeah, I still think my faith in this Italian team is quite low these days.
Yeah, but your faith in the French team was also particularly low 5 months ago.
Well, yeah, true, but not as low as the Italians. It's all relative, KDM.
I mean, it's both blue, but the one's darker.
I got you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's like that. And France then at the Twickenham, Allianz Stadium.
It's going to be... Well, the Red Roses are so strong. I'm going to be interested as to what the crowd does for that. I hope people are showing up, turning up, getting the tickets for that. I know, I sense the full marketing drive has not kicked in probably from the RFU. I know they always time it and they're like, yep, we know that people are waiting to, and then suddenly it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But I also am aware that, strategically they have to think about how often they're tapping up this audience in a huge Rugby World Cup year, and are they pushing to make it more than 58 and a half and have to have it big for this Six Nations, or are they going to go, if it's 40, that's fine. I don't know what
as if we're complaining about 40,000 people, isn't it? Like, oh my goodness.
The
how
problems
quickly we got used to it.
It's so true.
But as it turns out, Nick's game on the continent, the 2 blue teams might just be the one. And on that topic, brings us nicely to our new segment, Cabin Chat, brought to you in partnership with our good friends at British Airways, because they believe that everywhere we go makes us everything we are. And we definitely ascribe to that notion. So, Katy, you've had a couple of flights out during the history of this competition.
We did have one. So obviously when COVID hit and travel was generally stopped, it happened obviously in the middle of Six Nations. So we finished Six Nations in the March, and then obviously they wanted to finish it, but we didn't go go back into Six Nations until October, November. And we were really fortunate that we got to travel. So we went out of a nice fancy terminal in Terminal 5. We were extremely well looked after, and pretty much had a plane to ourselves to get out to Italy, which was the final game to be able to win the Six Nations.
Wow.
Which is, when you think about it, it was a different world at that point, wasn't it? And we were very fortunate of all the things that were happening in the world to still be able to go out and play. Do you want to see the picture?
Yeah. Oh, well, look at you guys. Geez, that plane must have been so empty.
Yeah. I think literally we were the only ones on it.
Wow.
You had a row each.
And a couple of others.
And that's you bringing the trophy home then?
Yeah.
By the looks of it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
Good trip then.
it was. Good trip.
Good to get out, Stretch your legs a bit. Get another stamp of the passport for a change. It's 2020.
I did get a stamp as well.
Yeah, no one got to go anywhere that year.
Apart from us.
Yeah.
I love that for you. I love Nick's stories of traveling for the specific competition because it's always such a it's a cultural experience. It's not just going there, doing the job, and then coming back. There's usually a bit of fine dining that goes along with it.
Well,
is it right?
sometimes you're actually getting the best food, particularly in France, because of their lovely production unionizing things. It means that you have to get fed. So I have been to a couple of games where you turn up, they're like, oh, you have to turn up, and you're always there a bit earlier. Like, oh, I've got to be there like 3.5 hours before. But you turn up, and they're like, oh, I'll meet you with your accreditation, then we can go and get food. Okay, oui, merci. And so off you go, following your French producer. And then you come around the corner of the stadium and you see like 3 little gazebos in a row. And there's sort of a little bit of smoke and steam coming out of one of them. And I've rocked up and they've had fully dressed tables, little plastic tablecloths, proper metal cutlery. There's a heat plate in the corner with an actual chef with an apron on with food on over it. He's just, checking a few little bits. There's a table with some flans on it, a bit of tarte tatin maybe. There's things of bread, a bottle of red wine on a couple of the tables. And then as you arrive, he's just like, 2 of you, yes, come and sit over here. Like you're at this pop-up restaurant.
Yeah.
And then they sit you down and or you kind of go and get what you want. And then they'll bring over, I don't know, fresh plate of coq au vin, something very delightful. And you're like, well, it is 3.5 hours to go until kick-off. So a little soupçon of the vin rouge just to, wet the whistle. And then you toddle off into the stadium, go and get ready. But it's just fantastic. So that's joyous. And then, other times when I was in Palma last year, I think, the boss's big boss was in town.
Oh.
And the game was, I think, a 3 o'clock game, so finished at 5. So we were like, well, we don't fly back until the morning, so we could go for a little bite to eat. So we went to a gorgeous restaurant that I found, quick Google mapped it, the whole thing, and then we went in there, had Lambrusco for the first time. Have you had that?
What is it?
It's fizzy red wine.
Why would you put the fizzies in it?
It's their thing, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They thought I was quite uncouth for not having had it before, but it's nice to be home.
I grew up in the winelands of South Africa and we didn't have fizzies in any wine except the one that you can see through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so that was an experience and very nice ragu, pappardelle or something like that.
Sure.
If she doesn't play on the wing.
I was going to say, is that a person or are we still talking about
it's me old Rigoni joke. Coming back to haunt me. May as well own it. So yeah, it's a little trip on the continent. If it works out, can be chef's kiss.
I'm sure the last time I was in France as well, you found a nice little restaurant. I joined a new group of people.
Was that the Bordeaux
experience?
The
Bordeaux trip.
When you finally admitted you have crossed the line?
Yeah, I joined the dark side.
When you became the media.
Yeah, on the other side.
But I love that we have these experiences to also build relationships and shape who we are and how we are in relation to one another.
It is true though. I think the amount of times we've spent in an airport sitting playing cards and the small stuff you get from travelling, some of my best memories are from those bits of, like I say, sitting in airports and just the chatting and the people you get sat next to that you wouldn't normally get if you weren't getting on an aeroplane.
I love that. Now, British Airways will take care of you over a lifetime of journeys. Book your next flight at britishairways.com. That was the days when we had big crowds in France. Now they're big crowds, everywhere.
So
Speaking of big crowds, roll up, Bonnie, Scotland.
Ooh.
First time ever. I don't
Didn't
think
get
I've done a
invited to that
live
one.
show in. Oh, we have never north of the border, guys.
No, I love you selling it with a Cockney accent. It's
Oh,
just
sorry.
Great.
I just, I'm trying.
Again.
Roll up, Bonnie, Scotland.
Bonnie,
Whey!
Scotland.
All the apples and pears.
Okay, I will retire
Again. Come on.
I will retire doing all accents except
No.
my own.
Sorry.
One more go. I believe in you. Come on.
I don't know that I can
Give her a
offer
bit of
you
Scottish,
anything
come on.
else. What's
Roll up, Bonnie, Scotland.
roll up, Bonnie, Scotland? Is that better?
No.
No.
Stop.
it's
You
got worse.
were going well until
Roll-
Scotland.
I can do the r.
Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah, near enough.
No.
Slightly better.
No,
now.
it's not
No.
there. I can hear when
As
I
your
say it,
friend,
it's not
stop now.
there. Stop. Sorry, Scotland. Please come play with us.
Please come to the show.
I think sorry, Scotland from all of
Please
us. actually.
don't break up with us. Okay, so on Saturday, the 22nd of March, which is the week after the PWR final, if you have not been paying attention, we'll be there in partnership with our friends at Vodafone at the Hive before the game.
Damn.
We have called up Welsh legend Eleanor Snowsell, and she has thoughts. Many of them, which we are so excited for her to come spill the tea, but also bring all of her opinions. And Scotland's Meryl Smith, who's missing out on this year's Six Nations due to injury. A lot of the time that brings the best insights. Approve? Yes?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay. And maybe a few others. I mean, it depends. We're speaking to people, okay? They are yet to reply.
Snowy will be good. She's been part of the pathway. She's been part of the previous generation of that Welsh team. She'll
And
have
she
some-
got a lot of opinions.
Yeah, she'll have some tea to spill.
Yeah. So tickets are live now. We are very excited to see you in Edinburgh. And the fun doesn't stop at round one, Katy Daley-Mclean.
That's right.
She's coming down from the north.
I am coming to the north, to Cardiff,
You're coming to Cardiff.
with you.
On Saturday, the 29th of March, we're in Cardiff with a live show ahead of Wales, England at the Principality, again in partnership with Vodafone. Tickets for Cardiff will be live soon. Keep an eye on our socials, as we know you do, always.
You're getting around, aren't you? That's good.
I mean, genuinely, I'm so excited. I'm visiting all the home nations. There's more. Yeah. So England, Six Nations. Shara even gave me a color-coded list of players called up to the squads and which teams they play for, which is phenomenal. There's a lot of blue and red here, blue being Bristol and red being Gloucester Hartbury. Emma Singh and May Campbell play their way back into the fold. Uncapped players include Abby Burton, Charlotte Frey, Millie David, Sarah Parry, Flo Robinson, Jade Shekels. Who's your favourite? Who are you most excited about? What a list.
It is a good list. And it's indicative of the performances that they've been putting in PWR, which shows that that connectivity is all in place. John Mitchell gets around, he looks at those games, as do the other coaches. So the system is working, which is just important to point out because that's not always the case in certain setups. And yeah, it's good. It's interesting because often you get to a point where there is a Six Nations squad published, and this is a slightly different year because of the nature of the PWR final being the week before. They've had to name a wider squad of 42 players that are going to all be in. Then they've just named another squad with a load of additional pathway players coming in to sample the Red Roses atmosphere for this week, which has got a whole load of other uncapped names on it. And then the day after the Prem final, I guess they will then probably publish another list, or maybe even the Sunday night, of the players that are then in that week. So we're almost missing out the formal, this is the Red Roses Six Nations squad this year, because they're sort of having to go, this lot of training, here's a few more people, these people are back, is our team against, So it's going to be a bit of a ride, I think, for the preparation. We thought towards the end of last year, we were told the players in the PWR final will not play the first Red Roses game. And at the launch, we heard from John Mitchell, no, that's not the case. They will. They're allowed. It's all okay. So there we are. But
which is code for we're not starting without Zoe and Mo.
No, I mean, it's what was quite nice. I had a chance to nudge up to Mitch, and I was just like, "How's it going? What's looking good?" And he said Sarah Parry has been looking great. He mentioned a couple of names and was just excited by those that were in there taking their opportunity, which I think is great. But it must be a a strange year because you sort of want to be looking at those players that have a really big potential future, but then there's got to be reality going, you're not going to be one of the 32, 35, whatever it is in my World Cup squad. So how much do I invest in you now, knowing the people I'm going to need?
But in case of injury...
Well, of course, yeah.
I mean, the men's All Blacks team went through how many fly halves in 2011?
4, didn't they?
Yeah. Stephen Donald out on a fishing trip.
You might be down to Stephen Donald levels, so
Yeah.
might as
Could be
well
back.
blood them now.
Could be back. Might do some running later.
Yeah, you should do.
Here we go, Katy Daley-Mclean.
Still do a job.
Probably
Imagine.
put Scazzy there before they called me, I think.
You're
You
putting
think?
her in the same category as you until then.
I put her in the same category as Ted as me now. Is that bad? So Scaz,
Excellent.
I think she might listen to this.
oh God. I don't think she does. She
Not
fast
for
forwards
sure.
me. That's
Okay.
what she said.
She tries to do that in real life as well.
Yeah.
Double speed.
Why isn't it working?
None of those names that I said are any of yours. So you
About the name, about the uncapped
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I think Millie David's got to be in with an outside shot.
She's been going well.
Because as well, I think when you look at, if you're going to blood some new players, you look at positionally the impact. And I think for her, a finish, obviously the finish in the semi was, have you seen a better finish in the women's game to date?
Yeah,
I'm not sure we have. But I also think it's a lot lower risk to giving her an opportunity and just seeing what she could do. Because sometimes you want somebody on your bench that might have the opportunity to deliver a bit of magic. And I wonder with her whether she could do that. But he needs to see her on the international stage to know if she can make that transition. So for me, I think she maybe has an outside shot of getting a first cap this Six Nations.
Yeah, I would think so. You'd want to throw her in while she's looking this fresh. And this fun. So yes, there will be an official Six Nations squad on Monday the 17th once all of the PWR is done.
Mitch told us at the Women's Six Nations launch that he already knows the combinations that he's looking to test out.
Oh, okay.
Which would make sense if you look how he works, because he's already got his front rows, hasn't he? He's got his starting front row, he's got his bench front row, and speaking to the girls, they stay in those.
Yeah.
It's not like you might chop and change. Like, this is the group of front row that I work with. So it doesn't surprise you that he's looking for 9s and 10s that might deliver him this, a centre partnership might give him this, a back row. I think given that's how seems to be his kind of MO in coaching.
Yeah, and he's already ahead of that planning for the World Cup. So
You've got to, though, because this is like your tournament where you get to see. Like say, I think you might get some outside change of potentially a couple of new names, but you'd be silly if you don't use this as a prep for your World Cup, given how big this tournament is.
So the last time we saw the Red Roses in action was in Vancouver during a WXV, when producer Shira told me they became the first ever team to surpass 97 world rankings points, 97.56. That is as close to completed it, mate, that any team has come. Unprecedented winning rate, 50 from 51 matches. 20 in...
It's that one that stands
I
out,
was about to
isn't
say,
it? It's just
literally, like,
every
that's
time
awesome, but that one happens to be a World Cup
I know,
final.
every time I see that stat on behalf of the Red Roses,
That's
I'm
cool.
like, oh, the power of that one.
Literally one.
How big a loss would it then be if they lost to France on Super Saturday?
I think it would be one of the best things to happen to them.
100%.
Even considering the fact that the psychological scar of the last World Cup final...
It's still an arena that, with due respect to a tournament I adore and is huge and historic, in this year of years, it's less consequential. It doesn't matter as much, and
I can't believe you just said that.
I agree with them, though, 100%.
The thing that scared me more than anything was reading and hearing the reaction from some of the Red Roses from the pressure that Canada put them under. Bearing in mind they still won that game in Vancouver, but they were like, oh God, that got really close. Oh, my heart. Oh, I've never wanted to feel that. And it's just like, right, actually, you've barely ever lost. And if you're a Saracens, a Gloucester player, you're still really never losing.
Or going backwards.
Yeah, you've
You don't
probably
get tested. You spend your life sitting on a nice little armchair going forward.
Yeah, because everyone around you is working their socks off, and that's great, and it's testament to the skill level of everyone there. So you've worked hard for it, but equally, you find yourself under the cosh in a World Cup semi-final, and all of a sudden your brain's gone to mush because you've never felt that pressure, because the last time it was in Vancouver, and it got down to a few points, but I think, all of the best people who've won anything talk about where loss played a part, and that World Cup final loss will play a part. But I wouldn't mind if they had the resolve and learning from that happening one or two more times, if they're to have all the armoury they're going to need to win it in September.
The other thing about loss and about learning from losses, you've got to be put in the same situation or a similar situation again. So you can go and you can get beat and you can be like, we can sit and watch it and be like, next time we should have done this or we should have done that. But until you get that moment again or something similar that forces your decision making, because the biggest thing you think when you're under pressure is you lose time and you generally lose space. So everything has to be quicker. But like Nick says, your brain wants to work slower because haven't experienced this before. So you want more time, but actually that's the thing you've got less of. And I think the thing for the Red Roses is just losing a World Cup final every 50 games is not going to be the thing that learns from you, being squeezed and tested. And I think more importantly, the bit around the dominance of Gloucester, Sarries, Bristol that hold lots of red roses, again, does nothing for them, because it's not like you can even say it. You look at Meg Jones at Leicester. She's thrived, but she's thrived with less time. She'll go into Red Roses camp and almost, like, I can testify for this, having played at DMP, almost like the game is being played in slow motion.
Yeah.
Because your pack's going forward, the quality of the pass you're getting, it's on the money. Like, literally, you can get flatter and flatter because the game is slower than you've experienced. For some of the girls, they've never experienced what it's like to go back and have to generate space or make good decisions or find space, because actually everything for them is always going forward.
We were on a media call, I remember, with Gloucester players when they lost the 3 in a row in the autumn, which was the most they'd ever lost in the previous 2 seasons put together. Yeah. And we were saying, and how are you sort of feeling at this period, going through it? I was almost going to call it a crisis, sorry, but how are you feeling about it? And the players went, we've been referring to it as a crisis. And you're like, ooh, this isn't a crisis. You've lost a couple of games and you've had players away with injury. You're going to be fine. But, I'm slightly concerned that you're referring to it as a crisis, because they don't lose. How often does Mo lose these days? How often does Zoe Allcroft lose as England captain? Or these sorts of players. How often does Marley Packer lose? 3 or 4 times a year at the very most. And
then the other thing that becomes interesting about losing is then how you deal with it as a player in that moment. So, like, do you go inside yourself? Do you become more vocal? Like, how do you react? Therefore, how do I now speak to... So how does Mo and Zoe's comms change because they're losing and they're feeling the pressure, so they're getting a bit tight. It just... And until you're squeezed in that way... And these were all the things that I suppose were different about 2014. We talked about a lot of this. Really? And we'd worked through a lot of, like, bad day, good day.
What was your Women's Six Nations like before you won in 2014?
So we lost So 2013, we'd been to New Zealand. We'd been beaten 3 tests in New Zealand, like absolutely battered by the Kiwis. We then got to the Six Nations and we lost the opener against France away in that World Cup year. And those, for me, were... on top of 2010, were huge moments because they just made you reassess, and all the things that you thought you were doing well were like, we need to have another look at this. And one of the biggest things, Kat Merchant said it, in 2014, when we lost to France, everybody knew it was happening, but it was almost like you were in a bubble or you were underwater, and everybody knew it, but nobody had any way of stopping it or having any language to solve the problems. So we all recognised it, which is great, and it's a first step, but we couldn't solve it. And I think that was huge going into 2014 when we got squeezed a little bit by Canada in that final, and certainly in the group game. We'd had language, we'd built communication streams, we'd built a leadership group that was really resilient and knew what to do because we'd been there and we'd had that experience quite recently. And I think that was huge for when the pressure comes, because you can talk about it and you can start to plan it, but until you've experienced it together and it's shared, I think it is harder to bring it to life.
On the topic of rolling back the clock, Nick, you've been working on something really special that rolls back the clock to yesteryear.
Yesteryear. Well, I had the high privilege when I did a little bit of work for the people you work for a few years ago, when I came in and helped put together the reels for the Hall of Fame, the World Rugby Hall of Fame, when a certain 4 women were inducted. And and it all happened in New Zealand. And so we were putting together some nice films of their achievements and where they came from. And I got the chance to interview Sue Dorrington, Alice Cooper, Mary Forsyth, and their Queen Bee, Deborah Griffin, who's due to be the first woman RFU president when she takes the helm in August this year ahead of this home World Cup, which will be incredible. And in speaking to them all and hearing someone like Sue Dorrington say, well, I just thought people had forgotten about us and this story was never going to be told. Boom, hit me. Oh. And I was like, these are four amazing women that actually made this happen. They set this pebble rolling that's now an enormous, moss-covered boulder, and it is the reason that this podcast exists. It's the reason that nutritionists exist. It's the reason that S&C and sponsorship and everything that goes within the women's game is there, because they started and went, we can do this. And we'd probably be on our third, fourth, fifth World Cup now, unless it was to them, whereas this is going to be the 10th Women's World Cup because of what they started. And they were four mates from Richmond Rugby Club, and Deborah Griffin went, I think we should do a World Cup. And I want you, and you. And she went to what was the Women's Rugby Football Union, the RFUW as it was, and said, I've got a paper here on the idea for a Women's World Cup. And they went, okay. But her stipulation, which Deborah will tell you, is she wanted to pick her team. So she picked her three mates, and off they went. No clue what they were doing, absolutely making it up as they went along. And they pulled it off. 12 teams at a location they found in Wales to host it. They were faxing teams to get them to reply, because that was, 1991, you go, the 90s, it's 2 years after the 80s. Misogyny and sexism looms large in the rearview mirror. And so, having met them and having got quite close to Alice Cooper, she said, look, she agreed with me. It would be amazing to have this story properly told, and it's an origin story. It's where it all started, and it's based around four amazing women. So we've been discussing and developing it for quite a little while. We've had a chat with a couple of brands of people who might be interested, and
to fund it.
Yeah.
And when you say it.
So we've started making a documentary which will tell the story. And we have decided to get the ball rolling by actually bringing the four women back round the table for the first time, just in case anyone needs their names.
Oh, he's taking off his clothing.
T-shirt.
He's taking off his clothing. Oh, he's wearing a T-shirt.
That's flipping awesome.
In line with the Fab Four T-shirt that was created a few years ago, the Helvetica with the first names of the Beatles, I went for the four surnames of these four amazing people.
Griffin, Cooper, Forsyth.
Dorrington. And we're keen to get the documentary made so that we can tell this story almost as the sort of doormat welcome into this amazing August, September we've got coming up with this home World Cup. So if any sugar mummies or daddies are out there and you want to help us make this, then we need some cash, because it won't get made without it being funded. And we have pathways for distribution, everything in place. Everything looks great. We will find our audience. We know that they're out there, but we need a bit of a hand. So thanks for the opportunity to talk about it.
It's really exciting.
It's so cool. And I've met some of these women, like especially Sue Dorrington is a massive advocate for helping Gary Street as well. And so when somebody sets their mind to something, I've never met anybody so strong and passionate about it. So
they're all
such an important story.
They did a World Cup when people didn't even, want to listen to women.
That's crazy. You can't imagine, can you? We think it was hard, and what those guys would have gone through to get us here is
incredible.
It's amazing.
It's great that they are being honoured and recognised.
Yes, indeed.
And I love that you're doing it. Now, just before we move on to the PWR final, the next thing on the agenda, I just need to rattle through a few things that John Mitchell, the coach of the Red Roses, shared with producer Shira. Number one, Scazzy's form looking really fit and in form.
Thank God.
Number two, Mo's form, superb. He did reflect on the fact that he had the privilege of bringing her back into the Red Roses. So they have a nice little bond.
Oh, that's nice that he made that mention.
Which is super important for Mo as well, given the history, to have a connection. It will just give him another 15-20% out of her.
Yeah.
That nobody else would have seen because of that.
Player.
Oh my goodness.
To be backed.
Yeah, 100%, which is great and smart.
Yeah,
very smart.
And then, crucial, Mitch has heard of Moisms. It has made its way all the way there. He has seen clips of them, in fact. He's going to keep an eye out for us, or an ear to the ground on some Moisms. He's going to write them down in his notebook. He says, I'm very notebooky. So he's going to collect some Moisms for us. We cannot wait to get contributions. At least it's not just down to Nanny Bob and our Scaz. We now have another person on the team hunting for the Moisms. Dun, dun, dun. We roll on to the final at Stonex Stadium. I did average out the scores between Gloucester Hartpury and Saracens in the 24-25 season. It's been 40, Saracens 40, Gloucester Hartpury 42.5.
Oh, man.
And average from the 2023 season across the 23-24 season into the 24-25 season, it skews more towards Gloucester Hartpury. Saracens 29, Gloucester Hartpury 37. So Gloucester Hartpury have seen Saracens catch up to them a little bit over the last 3 years. Last week, you and Scaz, Nicholas, agreed that Saracens' discipline could be the thing that makes the difference here. 2.5 point marginal difference there between the two, though. That's very close.
Yeah, it's where they are, I think, in big pressure moments. So semi-final against Harlequin, Saracens conceded 17 penalties. That's quite a lot for a team that were relatively dominant in the game.
And sorry, on that, and generally they went back to back. So if they'd given one away, generally found they gave another one pretty quickly.
Gloucester Hartpury 8 penalties in a game where they had a third of the ball, ultimately, compared to Bristol. So, yeah, I think that's the key. I had a couple of stats myself. Like, Saracens got that win against Quins with 50% of the ball and 60% of the territory. Gloucester Hartpury got their victory with 40% of both. And, I mean, we did mention it in that wash-up in the last pod, but it really is the case. And it's a real badge of honour, I think, for that Gloucester Hartpury side. They can just watch you play, and they will even watch you score against them. And then they will just shoot their shot when they need to. And I just find that really impressive. Like they carried 110 times in their game. Saracens carried 170. The amount of tackles the amount of carries that the Saracens back row made was 44. Gloucester Hartpury made 18. But they still came out on top of that scoreline. Like the effectiveness of what they do.
The strike rate.
Their patience to just go, you carry on, we'll tackle. Their tackle rate was huge. And then they'll just use a third of the ball to go and get what they need out of the game.
I've never seen them be that clinical. I think you look at whether, when you don't have the ball, whether that forces you to play. And I think Mo talked about it in that show. Just that, oh, God, it's been like 10, 20 minutes and we haven't touched the ball. And then they got an entry and bang and took some points.
Yeah.
And I think when you look about what becomes important, semis and finals, your ability to stay composed and take points are huge. And I think they were so good at it. And
the insight that Gloucester put out, their little physio cam, which was brilliant. But you hear on that, Mo in one of the huddles say to them when they've not had the ball for 15 minutes, she says, which I love and is a really good note for my touch rugby team, but just because we haven't had the ball for a while doesn't mean when we do get it that everyone should be so keen to play that you get flat. Because you can tell everyone's like, oh, I want to come onto the ball, I want it. So they get really flat and then actually you're ineffective. So it's like, be patient, keep your depth. That's what we want. And the people listened. And it's one of those things, I guess, as a team, you might share a message and some people are thinking about something else, other people it doesn't. But if everybody really does buy into that message, when they had the ball, they kept their depth, they were able to attack, they were efficient with it. And I thought was a really lovely bit of insight.
But also from somebody like Mo, it's giving people actions they can stay in control of. So if she had said like, don't get flat, and that's the message, actually, you're like, okay, cool. Yeah. But actually by holding your depth and giving that, and this is why she'll go on to be a very good coach, her ability to translate into rugby speak at that moment under pressure is what separates her from being like a good 9 to like a world-class best in the world 9.
Crucial conversations.
Crucial. And it's like one moment in one instance.
Sarries will be looking to take their scalps though, and them at home. They've had to fight their way there. They've had a couple of games that have not gone their way. Losing to Quins at home hurt them by that single point. And I was looking on the stats. Their turnovers are pretty decent. They're 8.5 to Gloucester Hartpury's just over 7. So they've got the opportunity to handle a team when they might send a runner that gets slightly isolated. And, a couple of times Gloucester Hartpury against Bristol, you would get a slight lone runner. I don't think Bristol were getting quite in the right positions for turnovers as often as they might have liked to in that particular game. Alicia Joyce Butchers will often get them. I don't think their turnover count was as high. But Saracens will certainly want to prey on them there. So the connectivity for Gloucester Hartpury going forwards on Sunday is going to be really key.
So what's interesting about Saracens is they haven't made a final. The last 2 times they had the opportunity. They lost to Exeter in the semi-final 24, 21 and 24. And then in 23, they lost to Bristol in the semi-final 29, 21. Both of those relatively close ones. They did win against Exeter in 2022. In terms of winning momentum coming into this, it is interesting. You did commentary on that semi-final that they won against Harlequins.
Got you.
And you said...
Remember, you were there.
Yeah, you were there, right? That was you, not your body double.
No, that was me.
Yeah, okay. And you said on Stick to Rugby, this is Gloucester's to lose.
Ooh.
Why did you say that?
I think, like you say, you touched on it earlier, Sarries have caught up to Gloucester. I think for the last couple of years, the way Gloucester have set the standard of the game, the way they play, they've got a really good balance. They're not this or that. They're what the situation needs. They can kick long, they can kick the corners, they can keep the ball in hand, they can go at their catch and drive. I think for me, they're the most balanced side. I think if you look at Saracens, realistically, probably their back line, like Jess scored a wonder try. She was brilliant coming back. Zoe's got a big boot, but they probably lack that all-court game across their back line and they rely heavily on their forwards. Whereas I think if you look at Gloucester, depending on the situation, that, we'll use this card or this card. And I think the form of Mo and Clakey and the experience, for me, I just can't see Gloucester losing it. I just think they've got everything you need. And Linnie's done a really good job of recruiting to what he's needed, just little bits here and there. Their pathway has developed some superstars in there. I wonder for Sarries, like, is it what have they got? What can they do that if Gloucester are on their money on that day that they can change that course?
What is interesting is Nicole McClellan from Gloucester Hartpury said 4
Such
buses.
a legend.
4 buses of people screaming Gloucester.
Yeah.
Are heading down to the StoneX, so just shy of 250 people. And then that's just the people on the bus. That's not the rest. And then the London-based fans who might be swayed into wearing red with me. John Mitchell said 4 things. Saracens will have the desire at home. Gloucester Hartpury have the ability to build pressure on you like nobody else. He was there at that semi-final. He was watching. Gloucester have a better lineup. Might expose that lineup.
And that's where Saracens in discipline could feature.
And Saracens might expose Gloucester Hartpury transitions in the backfield, which is what you sort of kind of pointed to. We have it on good authority that Mitch also was asked by the players in camp this week who he thought would win, what his prediction was for the PWR final, and he would not be drawn on it. Because either way, if he gives a prediction, he loses, basically.
100%.
Yeah, that's very sensible.
Yeah. Okay, so who and by how many? Go, Nick.
Oh, I thought this was going to come.
Come on, Mitch. Hop off the fence there.
I know. A small caveat that comes with this is I think there's too much emotion in this for me because I love the three-peat story and I want Sean Lynn to go off with another medal in his back. Like there's something about that. I don't support any particular club, but there's something about the emotion of that story I really like. I think that will help get them there. I think Katie's talk of the all-court game. But this prediction doesn't come with any suggestion that Saracens are not capable of winning that game and going, you said we wouldn't win. No, I think you can win. And I think there's a definite strong chance of that. I'm going to go with Gloucester by 6.
Oh.
Katy Daley-Mclean.
You're right, though. The Sarries girls, 100% Poppy Clear's going to be like, you just wrote us off.
Yeah.
She will 100% message me.
Like loads of fuel there.
Yeah. Sorry, Gloucester. Yeah. But I think Gloucester, I was just looking at some of the scores previously. I think it could be a 1-2 score game, but I wonder if we'll get a higher score. So we'll get a 30, 30-28, 36-28.
Wow, that's a game for the fans.
Hey, I really hope so.
Oh.
Imagine sunshine day, both playing clinical running rugby. Emma Singh, Jess Breach going at it on the edges, and then you've got Marley Pack and Alex Matthews in the middle. Like, what more could you want?
I tell you what I will pray for. No injuries.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is...
man.
Oh, I almost don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
Where's the table?
I touched it.
There we go. Oh, yeah, the thought of that is actually making me a bit queasy. What are you laughing at?
Nothing.
Just you being a bit queasy.
The mascot.
What about the mascot, Katy?
Well, obviously, you know there's a mascot race at half time.
But apparently
Are you calling it?
Apparently, I'm commentating on a
Yes.
mascot race. Yeah,
I have no idea.
Life goals.
So I haven't started my my research on who the mascots are for each of the clubs. But it will be very interesting as to who's going to be running in them.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. So I am not wearing my KittyCat socks today, which I'm quite sad about because I could have up-nicked on his sock game. But he got the assignment and he is rocking some... Are those pale pink or have they just been in the wash with the red
No,
T-shirt?
they're pale pink.
They're pale pink sockies with lots of little doggies on them.
I think probably made for a 12-year-old girl, but they were bought for me.
Dalmatians, a little Jack Russell.
Yeah.
I see all kinds of breeds. What's this guy over here? Is that an English bulldog?
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Bring your sock game. Don't be that millennial that wears the secret socks, Katy Daley-Mclean. Come now, on Sunday.
Okay, I'll bring my socks.
Bring your socks.
Bring my socks.
We want to be impressed.
Okay, I'm going to bring you I've got them.
A
I'm on it.
sock with blue tits on it,
Oh,
imagine.
too far.
No, let her go. I want to see where she goes with a free
Okay, fine.
license.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm on it.
Now, if you haven't got them yet, there are literally like singular numbers of tickets left for our live show at the PWR Final on Sunday, the 16th of March, as always in partnership with our friends from Vodafone, a collab with the Power Pod. So more Nick Heath.
Yeah. You can hear us say all of the same things we've said today in person.
Well,
Sorry.
Done.
We'll be a little more rogue. And Builder, PT, Philippa Tatiet,
Yeah.
will join Nick as well. It'll be a bit of a pod off. Our Katy Daley-Mclean with her non-millennial, her Gen Z socks.
Gen Z socks. I'm
Tall
on it.
socks. Megan Jones,
Who's your favourite, isn't she?
well, it's going to be funny
Oh,
because
good.
the two of you are
At any
always
point you can say
competing.
no.
The pause there was
Yeah,
telling,
it's bad,
wasn't
wasn't it?
Isn't it just so much fun? I love this.
Don't try and dig yourself out of that. That was truth right there.
And maybe just the Queen herself, Emily Scarrett,
Dun, dun,
might
dun.
grace us with her presence.
Won't that be a delight?
If you had to choose between Meg and Scaz, and you can only keep one,
Why are you obsessed with this? Why can I not love all my children equally?
that's because that's not a thing. Ask any parent.
I love Nick the most.
There we go.
Nick wasn't in the competition.
No.
I've just added him. You can
pleaded
find
the fifth there.
details.
She did, didn't she?
Yeah, you can
She
find
gave me the tone
details.
as well to
I'm
stop.
still talking.
Sorry.
Anything else you'd like to add? There we go. Get the details to buy your tickets in our bio and in the description on our YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone who bought a ticket, by the way. I can't believe that we have so many friends. It's
Nice.
amazing. I love that for us. Thank you so much for stopping by, Nicholas.
Absolute pleasure. Lovely to be back.
Thank you for sharing the wisdom, all of the socks. I mean, he
T-shirt.
came with a T-shirt. He even took his top off for us.
What more could we want?
I mean, genuinely, it's more than I bargained on. Certainly.
Thank God I stopped there, eh?
Wait.
Yeah. Thank you for fitting us into your schedule, Katy Daley-Mclean.
No problem. It was a pleasure.
I can't believe we made the cut. I mean, we're only third on the list.
I'm not biting.
It's so
I
much
love
fun.
you.
I love you too. It's lovely to have you. Thank you. Thank you for still being our friend.
It's okay.
I feel very special. Thank you to you for hanging around with us for this entire episode. There is so much knowledge in this one. I feel like we've covered more rugby than we have all season.
Sorry, did I bring the boring stuff?
Don't tell the
And
rugby.
me.
Don't tell the rugby I said that. Because I mean, we don't want feelings to be hurt. We are the Good, the Scaz and the Rugby, brought to you in partnership with Vodafone. The Good, the Scaz and the Rugby is a folding pocket production produced by.
Shira
Kilgallen.
Kilgallen. Dun dun dun.
So good, love it.